Welcome back everyone, I'm Aaron from Low and Slow Basics, and in this video we're going to be making some pulled pork in an offset smoker. Now we've got a pork butt here, but you can use pork shoulder or pork scotch. They're my other two favourite cuts of pork for pulled pork. We're going to inject this today. We've got some acai and passion fruit sour from Pirate Life. If you've got something like pineapple juice or apple juice, that's going to work perfect as well. You don't have to inject it all. We want to get a nice fruity sweet flavour in here, so we're going to inject this all over. So if you've got a meat injector, we're just going to fill that up, and we're literally just going to inject this all over, and then we're going to leave it overnight, come back tomorrow, and we're going to smoke it. As you can see, I'm doing this in a tray, so any liquid that spills out is going to be caught. And if you're new to our channel, please consider subscribing. That way you won't miss any of our next videos. So I'm happy with that. And what we've done by injecting is we're going to really help retain moisture in that pork. We're going to have some really nice juicy pork and a nice sweet flavour from that acai and passion fruit sour as well. So we'll get this wrapped up with some cling wrap in the tray, and we'll come back in the morning when we're ready to smoke it. I usually like to leave my injected meat just overnight. That'll do. That's plenty of time to let those flavours settle in. So like I said, we'll get this wrapped up and into the fridge. Right, so our pork butt's been in the fridge overnight, but before we get stuck into seasoning that, let's get a fire going. Right, so on our firebox grate, get a few firelighters going. Open up our side door so we've got plenty of oxygen in there. And we'll get a chimney worth of briquettes or lump charcoal if you're using that. Get them started to get this fire going. And we'll also get a couple of little wood splits in there to start preheating as well. So our briquettes are on. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes before they'll be ready. We've got our pork butt out, and we've used the tray we sat the pork butt in as a drip tray in our offset smoker. So I've had a good look at the pork butt. It doesn't need much trimming. If you've got a fat coverage of 1 to 2 mil, that's fine. Anything over that, then trim it down. We've picked this up from Austral Meats. As you can see, it's got some beautiful marbling in there. This is going to be sensational. So it's time to season it up. We're going to be using a combination of sweet succulent swine from Heavenly Hell and our steak shooter rub. So we're going to be going with some sweet and savoury flavours. Really good combination. I've had this before. If you've got a favourite pork rub, go ahead and use that. We're just going to start with our sweet succulent swine, then we'll top it off with our steak shooter. Right, we're all seasoned up, so we'll come back once these briquettes are ready and we'll start building this fire. All right, so our briquettes are ready. Take our splits out for a sec. Make sure you've got some high heat gloves on. Pour our briquettes in. If you don't have one of these baskets, don't stress. You can pour them just straight on the grate down the bottom. This just holds your briquettes in place a bit better. Then we've got our wood splits on. Start building a nice clean burning fire. If you wanted to delve a bit deeper into offset smoker fire management, I'll put a link down in the description for you to follow. We've done a video on this in the past that covers off everything you need to know. So one thing I always like to do is I'll put a temperature probe on the grill. It'll display a much more accurate reading as opposed to the temperature gauge up here. As you can see, it's very, very close to the firebox, so that's going to read much higher than what's actually happening at grill level. Now, one of the most important things for me is making sure you've got very thin or clear smoke coming out of that chimney stack. That means you've got a good, clean burning fire going. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. We've got a beautiful, steady, clean burning fire going. Let's get this pork on. Right over where our drip tray is. Shut that lid, and now we can let it go for a while. Right, so now our pork's on. All we've got to do is maintain a nice, clean burning, steady fire for this cook. I'm going to be looking for a pit temperature between around 275 to 300 Fahrenheit or 135 to 150 Celsius. And we're going to let our pork butt go for a few hours until we are happy with the bark and we've got an internal temperature of around 160 Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius. And if you've got some water, pineapple juice, apple juice, I've got some apple cider vinegar, I'm just going to spritz every hour or so. This is really going to help with moisture retention and bark formation. So apart from that, like I said, I'm just going to let this go until we get to that 160 Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius range, and I'm happy with the bark, so we'll come back then. All right, so we're just over 3 hours into this cook now. We've been maintaining a steady, clean burning fire. We've got some beautiful iron bark splits from Natural Smoke that we've been using. We've been spritzing every hour, so let's open the smoker up, have a look at our pork butt, and check the internal temperature. That is looking fantastic. Our bark's set nicely. One way to test that is poke around and it shouldn't be coming off on your finger. Getting some beautiful color. Check our internal temperature. We're sitting at about 126 there. So I reckon another 45 minutes to an hour and we'll be just where we want to be, around that 160 Fahrenheit internal mark, or 71 degrees Celsius. So we'll give this a spritz, continue to maintain our steady fire, and we'll come back once it's ready to wrap. Right, it's been just over an hour since we last checked in. We've hit our target internal temperature. Our bark is looking great, so let's get this thing wrapped up. So we'll get this wrapped up nice and tight. So we're all wrapped up and back in the smoker. Now don't be ashamed to finish it off in the oven now, because you're not going to get any more smoke into it. You're just going to end up wasting wood and time fighting a fire that you don't need to. All we need is heat now to finish this off, and we're just going to take this until we reach an internal of around 205 Fahrenheit or 96 degrees Celsius. Now that's going to be our first point of reference. We're mainly going to be looking for probe tenderness. So if we get to that internal temperature and we find it's not probing just the way we want it, we're going to take it a bit further until we are happy with probe tenderness. That's going to be our main point of reference. So like I said, if you want to finish it off in the oven, by all means go ahead, but it's a pretty cold day here. I'm enjoying sitting by the firebox, so I'm going to finish it off in the smoker. All right, so we are just over 7 hours total into this cook. We've hit 206 internal in the thickest part. Just going to cross-reference that with our instant read. Oh, it's looking good. See that bone poking out? Oh, it's just probing like butter there. So we got 205 there. 205, oh, that's just no resistance at all. Right in the middle. 203, nice, feeling really, really nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this foil up a little bit while it's keeping the juice in there, and just shut the lid for another 5 or 10 minutes, and that's really going to help bring back some of this bark we've lost due to wrapping it. So we'll come back in about 5 minutes and then we'll talk about resting. All right, so our pork's out. We've kept it in the foil just so we can keep all of those juices in there, because you want to keep them. When you're pulling the meat, you might want to add some of that back in, because it's going to help obviously with moisture, and there's a lot of flavor in there too. So I want to serve this in about 45 minutes time. So I'm happy to just let it rest uncovered at room temperature for that time. It's going to stay hot. If I wanted to serve it in 3, 4 or 5 hours time, I would let it steam off for 5 minutes just so I stop that cooking process and don't overcook it. And then I would wrap it back up and I'd rest it in an esky, and it's going to stay hot for them 3, 4, 5 hours. If I really, really wanted to stretch it longer, I could wrap a towel around the foil in the esky, and that's going to stretch it out even more. Or another trick is you can hold it in the oven at around 70 degrees Celsius until you want to serve it in 10 or 12 hours, which is a great option if you wanted to smoke one day to serve it the next for whatever reason. So like I said, I'm just going to let this rest for about 45 minutes. So we'll come back when this is ready to pull apart. Now that is some seriously juicy and tender pulled pork. All right, let's have a taste. Oh, unbelievable. That rub combination, you can taste that nice sweet fruitiness from that injection with the Pirate Life Acai and passion fruit sour. What a combo. You've got to try that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll put a bunch of links down in the description where you can get smoking wood, the beer, the rubs, everything we've listed in the video. Check the description and we'll see you next time.